Connor Brown out in the ice this morning?
He'll be a game time decision again. Hopefully he can go. If not, Ennis will go for him.
Okay, and other than that, no other changes. Goalie's the same.
Everything's the same.
How important is this homestand for your hockey club?
Well, I think I don't know about the homestand. It's just every game. I think I said a long time ago. After COVID, it's you want to win every game. There's no doubt about it. But the big picture for us is, these guys continuing to get better. I think you've seen over the last little bit, especially Brady, how hard he's playing away from the puck. These are key things for me that are going to help us get to the next level. And, Parker Kelly, Brandstrom, these guys are playing and playing important minutes. And the last two games, I'm really happy the way we played. I think we should have won probably in Vegas, or at least a point. We didn't. But if you play like that, you're going to get results. So in the homestand, yeah, you want the results, but we just got to play like that. If you play like that and you win, you're happy. If you play like that and you get robbed one night, so big deal, but you got to be able to continue to do it. And you look at the best teams in the league, that's all they do is just play the same way every night, and that's what we're trying to get to. And then, Drake's out there today. He's probably at least a little bit away. I know people are probably a little excited here, but and then when he gets back and Pinto gets back and all these guys get back, can you play that way every night? And then when you do that, next year you're going to have yourself a chance to compete to finally get in the playoffs.
When you got in at this job, this was a team in the rebuild. And now after 3 years you've been here, where do you feel that the kids are coming back fast enough or building fast enough in order to get to your plan, or will you need some veterans to come in and help this team be better competitive next year? Because you probably want to make the playoffs sooner rather than later. But do you think that you're on pace to do that with the team that you have now and believe in the young guys being, grow up fast enough to be there?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. And you just look at, I think so much wants to be made of this rebuild. Really, truly, the rebuild to me, started when Pajot was traded. That you traded your final piece, and when Ridley Gregg gets here and all these guys, that you're going to see the final piece rewards come with it. So, to me, the way Norris is only in his second year, Batherson, in his second year, Brady, all these guys are getting to the point where they know what it takes to win. They don't do it every night, and that's part of being young, but they're at the point where they understand as a group what they have to do to win. And unfortunately for us, I think Pinto is a huge loss for us this year, because I think this year would have really helped him and helped us assess how good we were down the middle going forward. And, that's up to Pierre to decide if he thinks what we need to help. But the patience that they've shown, for me, Mr. Melnick and Pierre, and not listening to the noise, is to stay with the kids all the way through and not to panic and go get a ton of veterans, which maybe gets us closer to the playoffs, But at the end of the day, does Formanton get to play as many minutes as he does? Does Brandstrom? Does Kelly? Does Norris get to play first-line minutes and be on the power play right away? It doesn't. So I guess to answer your question, Pierre will have to make that decision in the summer, but I think this is the proper timeline of these young kids. I think they're at the point where they're starting to get Shabby and these guys 24, 25. They're starting to come at that point where I think, it'd be fair to say next year, it's fair to judge us if we're healthy, that it's time for us to start being better than just okay.
I know that a trade, you talked about Pajot. Like when Pajot left, isn't he the type of player that on your second line or third line that you would obviously need now to make these kids better, that team a little ahead of its time or its development?
I think that's fair, but in saying that, I think the timeline was set then. I think that, Pager sure could have helped us, last year or whatever, this year, whatever, and take nothing away from him. He's a great player, and he was a great player here. But I think what you're going to see is when Ridley Gregg becomes an NHL player and is a really good NHL player, you're going to see that's going to be, when this team's 2-3 years into being successful maybe, and all of a sudden Ridley's there and he's in the prime of his career, you'll appreciate the trade more. That's for me. It's easy. As a coach, you want the best players right away right now, and it's hard to sit back and wait for young guys. but I think they brought me in to work with the young guys, and I think we just got to continue to play them. And then, like I said, Pierre and Mr. Malnick will make that decision as to when they want to add the older guys. But I couldn't be happier with the development of some of these young guys and the important minutes that they're getting. And, forget about the teams that you play that are like us. It's when you play Colorado, when you play St. Louis, when you play Vegas, when you play the best teams in the league, and you go out there, and that's when you find out where you're kind of at with your group.
You touched on this a little earlier. We saw Drake Batherson out there today. What went into the decision for him skating, and what's his timeline?
Well, the big thing is with Drake is he didn't have to stop and start today, and he didn't have to, grind it, his ankle. So, the flow drills and stuff were stuff that he's been doing. I think it gives our guys a little bit of jam. Just, with Brownie not even skating there this morning, those three guys, I didn't put them together. It's just, we had one little line rush there, and they just found each other there. And you could just see the excitement in them just to have Drake out there. He looked pretty good to me. If you're asking me, I'd put him out there tonight, but he's not ready. But it was just good to have him back with the guys. I mean, there's barely a guy that likes hockey more than him. He sits on the bench, watches every practice, watches his power play meetings. He loves the game. It's just good to have him back around.
In timeline?
I don't think we'll see him at this homestand. As excited as we all are to have him, and I've said this before. Do I want to win every game? I do. Would we have won more games if we had Norris back sooner? Maybe. But at what risk? I'm not putting him at risk. He's a huge part of our future, and I think our training staff has continued to do a good job on him, and I certainly won't be putting pressure until he's 100%.
Norris at the 100, how much growth have you seen from game one to now?
Well, I think that's part of it. I mean, we weren't sure last year how much to give him. How much is too much. And with the injury to Stepan, he was forced right in. But the best part is he learned to defend on the fly, and his offense has always been there, but he's learned to play against the best players. For 100 games, it's hard to believe you could have thought it would go this well, to be honest. I think if you looked at the offensive numbers, the way he plays, just the way it looks like he's coming as a player, I don't think you could be any happier with that player.
DJ, how do you dissect how your team has dealt with a myriad of injuries this year? Has it exposed a little bit of depth issues, or is this just like a freak amount of injuries that you've had to deal with again?
Well, I think a little bit of both. I mean, when you're a young team and you're relying on all your young guys, and then they're the ones that get sick or get hurt, you didn't plan for that. No one does. And it was a ridiculous amount with COVID, and then the sicknesses and the injuries and things like that. I don't think any team, doesn't matter who you are, if you have that many guys out. I mean, you look at, Pittsburgh, the start of the year, they had one of the best power plays in the league. When Sidney Crosby and Malkin aren't playing, their power play's clicking at 8%. Like, no matter what team it is, if you lose that many guys, you're going to feel the effects of it. All we can do is train properly, do all the right things, and hope that this doesn't repeat itself ever again.
How much has Norris meant to that power play? When you see him, last three.
Well, it's so obvious. I mean, you can get mad at the power play when he's not playing. But again, you talk about all these teams. Washington, I think, was 28th in the league on the power play when Oshie was out. And all of a sudden, Oshie comes back and they're scoring every night. Like, when all of a sudden you got to guard Oshie and then Ovechkin's open and it's in the back of the net, you have to guard Norris. You can't give him, at some point, either he's going to score or you're going to have to cover him and someone else gets to score. And obviously you can see the difference since he's back, whatever our numbers are. Even if it didn't go in, you can just see how much more dangerous we are. And, I mean, he's a world-class player for us. He's our best goal scorer on the power play, and he gives us all the options. What's that? Yeah, no, he's not close at this point. So we'll update that as we go. He's not skating or close to skating at this point, so we'll update that as we go.
Same neck stuff that you had before?
Yeah, upper body, and we'll release that when it's time.
Just go back to your comments earlier. Like, I'm just wondering, how often this year, DJ, have you looked at your depth chart and gone like, all right, what do we really have here? Only because you haven't had a game this year where you're 100%.
Yeah. We did. I think we did at the start of the year. I think the first 4 games of the year, I believe we did until Pinto got hurt. We had White out, was the only guy really out, and then when Pinto went out, we really, that hurt us. It hurt us because we didn't plan on that. But when you've got Pinto and Norris and now Timmy going down the middle, I think you've got really good depth going forward. Obviously there's pieces that need to mix in there on the wings and who's it's going to be and who's the right mix for who. But I think if we could continue to work with those three guys down the middle, with Sanderson coming, shortly on the back end, I think you're going to have a really good young team. I think there's still patience to be had because there's going to be learning lessons. But as you see the best players in the league, they're all getting older. And eventually that reign gets, handed over to someone else. I mean, I was in Toronto when Matthews was 19 or 20, and he was playing against all the best players. And, he was good, but he wasn't there yet. Now you see where he's at when he's in his prime. And our guys will be in their prime not too long.
Were fans in the stands going to help your energy level this trip? They're just a stand?
Yeah, I don't think we've treated. I mean, we haven't had fans, which is unfortunate. The energy that was in St. Louis the other night was outstanding. Vegas always is. We need to treat our fans to a complete 60-minute effort, and give an effort like we gave those last two games, and show them how hard we can work and what we're capable of. We've got some games in a row here, hopefully where we're healthy, and we talked about that as a group. As throughout this homestand, when fans are coming, we got to reward them with effort. You're not always going to get the results you want, but effort has to be there.
And DJ, you guys often talk about things outside of the game. And tonight we hear that Mr. Melnicky's got some initiatives. They're going to be playing the Ukrainian national anthem ahead of the game. Do you guys talk about some of that stuff, like the politics outside of hockey within the team room?
I hear some guys talk about it, but to be honest, I don't know enough. And I don't want to comment on things I don't know. And, everyone has their own beliefs, and you don't know, or you never want to offend anyone. So for me right now, our sole focus is hockey. Everyone in the world is aware of what's going on. And I think peace is the word that everyone wants.
Are Zub and Zaitsev, you felt them a little shaken by the whole situation?
We spoke to them. Pierre's pulled them aside, spoke to them just to make sure they're okay. I know the league's checked into everything just to make sure the players are okay and comfortable, and if they need someone to talk to, I know the organization's been there for them. It's a tough time, for them being over there. They have family back home, and they have, people living in different parts of the world. So it's uncharted, times for them, but the organization and the league has done a really good job making sure that they're okay.
What's the biggest challenge for you? If you have to go into a game without Connor Brown, what, as a coach, putting your lineup together, all that stuff, what do you see as the biggest challenge for you?
Well, offensively, if you don't have Connor Brown and you don't have Batherson on the right side, you're severely depleted when it comes to points and goals. I mean, if you look at it, you look at Seattle, for example, tonight, there's not one rookie in their lineup. Their entire team is veterans. So now you're, forced, maybe another younger guy to come in if it isn't Ennis. Certainly if he's not there, it hurts us. But we've played without guys before, and that's, it's probably the best thing. Parker Kelly, enough guys are hurt. Kostelic, enough guys were hurt where they get these chances and they open your eyes and they let you know they're a little closer than maybe you thought they were. And that would be the same situation. But, we're hopeful Connor can play, but if he can't, it's got to be the next guy up mentality, and it might be another guy from down in Belleville that gets a chance to show us.